How do you condense 30 years into, I'll take 5 minutes and let's see how we go, right? Thankfully, I don't have 120 slides. Yay! This is going to actually be pretty quick. I'm going to talk about routing. Why am I going to talk about routing? Because amongst other things, this is about the only way all of the internet comes to you and tells you what's going on. There are a few other ways that you can see all of the internet all at once, all the time. That's the job of BGP, best flooding protocol we ever invented. So I want to show this in just 3 slides. And this is the first 10 years after we sort of moved away from the NSFnet, its last year was 95, and moved into the commercial internet. And this is the first 10 years. There is a part there that's only just visible, which is the scary bit of 1994. Because a couple of years before that, we were going to run out of addresses and routing. We sort of saw this exponential growth and said, oh my God, the Cisco AGS pluses can't handle it. We need to change the tubes or something. And we invented, in 94, BGP. BGP4, I think it was, or was it BGP3? The version that had classless interdomain routing. We moved away from class A, B, C. We went on to classless routing and, oh my God, we saved everything. We then stopped the routing explosion because you're all meant to aggregate your routes. And by 95, we were going, phew, disaster averted. What we didn't realise is the insanity of the year 2001. Now, at the time, it seemed like a really big thing. Now that we've lived through Bitcoin and AI, that level of insanity was nothing, absolutely nothing. But at the time, it seemed like a really big thing. And that year, 2000, was scary. The number of routes in BGP rose from 7,000 to 12,000. That was a steep cliff. It's faster than Moore's law. What it really meant was the cost of routing was going to go whizzing up through the ceiling. Thank God, everyone decided that the internet was a gigantic waste of time. Bust came, you were all hyped up like crazy. The bust happened in 2001 and growth just stopped. And all the insane venture capitalists went off and do other insane venture capital things for a few years, and the telcos moved in instead. And then, just at the end of that 10-year period, Apple came out with the device. And all of a sudden, instead of connecting up companies and laptops and stuff on people's desks, we were connecting up crap in people's pockets. And all of a sudden, we were back on another boom, which wasn't quite as big as 2000, but was looking equally scary. The next 10 years lived the nightmare. Because at one point we thought, oh God, disaster averted, we're okay. We're not doing class 4, we're not going to run out of addresses, it's all going to be fine, until the mobile phone. And for a couple of years, we truly thought that we would get away with giving a unique IP address to every single mobile phone. And a number of countries, and I remember South Korea as one of them, really did try it. What we didn't figure was the mobile phone industry was capable of manufacturing around 500 million to 1 billion handsets a year, and we only had 4 billion addresses in V4. It was never, ever going to work. And so we just careered into exhaustion at the same time as peak. The golden halcyon days of V4 were when we were dancing around the edge of the cliff. It's right in the middle of that graph at around 2011 when we started running out. The industry didn't bother listening. That's a big, steep curve. We're now kicking around 200, 300, 400,000 routes and just pressing on. Everyone is seeing this massive explosion and it's kind of, problem? What problem? I haven't got a problem. Gnats are wonderful. And so in some ways we did this magic transition and just ignored the entire issue because, you know, we're professionals and we're good at this. So that was the big one. The RIRs ran out and nobody cared because, you know, don't want to interrupt the party. 2025, that last 10 years has been a fascinating 10 years. It's kind of reality hit about the same time as COVID. It was kind of the chill pill dudes, let's stop doing this crap, we can't slice and dice forever. That big kink was right in the middle of COVID. growth just stopped. I think there was a kind of underlying feeling that once we'd put machines in everyone's pockets, on everyone's wrists, in every car, in everything possible, it's kind of, can you say the saturation word? Because I think we might be getting close to it in a whole bunch of big markets. So V4 has kind of been tapering off. And the last 2 years has seen a completely different trajectory, which actually looks a lot like 94, except now we're toying with 1 million routes rather than a mere 20,000. And you kind of go, well, weren't we all meant to be running V6? When we hit this thing, wasn't V6 meant to be doing something? This is an interesting graph. This is V6 from go to woe. It's only 200,000 routes, so the scale isn't the same. It's only a fifth of the size. But if you look closely, the golden year of V6 was 2020. And the same saturation that's hit V4 has kind of hit V6. Not as harsh, there's still a much bigger growth cycle underneath it, but certainly it's changed, it's slowed. What does this mean? Well, let's now go into where it's heading, and I'm going to push this beyond credibility. 5 years ago, I had no clue about today. Neither did you. 5 years is an eternity in this industry, but I'm going to go out 7 years because what the hell, let's just make it pure fantasy. V6 has a decent set of maths around it, and you can do extrapolations on linear, polynomial, and so on, and I think you'd safely bet that if we keep on doing what we're doing today, you'll end up at about 500,000 routes in V6 in about 7 years' time. You're not going to lose sleep over that. Even though each route is 128 bits long because we only need 48 and the rest are just, you need to buy more memory. You really do for all those unused bits. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that kind of graph. It's easy. But your big problem, if you're buying a router today and you want it to last for 7 years, and who doesn't because you've just listened to Lee Howard and you know all the economics of this stuff, and you can't go throw away big expensive routers every year because that'll turn you broke, how big does it need to be to survive 7 years out there? Because there's kind of two trends and maths isn't going to help you. The nightmare scenario is we slice and dice and start routing /32s, and there are 4 billion of those. And we might get there. And at this rate of growth, at the extreme level, we could be up at about 1.5 million routes. Wow. That's kind of scary because we really don't know how to handle that. On the other side, we could actually say, look, all those V6 folk were finally right. Finally, after all this time, they've been very patient. We're peaked in V4. It's actually going to decline as folk actually start moving away from it. And that peak, the way the maths works, says we'll be at around 1 million routes and hover around there for some years. I have no idea. And neither do you. This is just a gigantic adventure. There are no rules. We're inventing it as we go along. And that was my last slide. Thank you very much.